hospitality industry. So we've got X amount of people. We're thinking of putting them on furlough, but I'm not convinced. What do you think? And it's like, well, furlough doesn't cost you. You're putting it on there. They're going to get paid. They're going to look to you and go, brilliant, what a great employer. You're looking after me, da-da-da-da-da. Well, it turns out they didn't put their staff on furlough because it was going to be too much hard work to fill out the papers. So they just left their workforce high and dry, effectively.
Wow.
We then come to the end of furlough, and they wrote to all their previous employees. And they said, hey, guys, fantastic news. We're allowed to open up. We're a hospitality business. We want people are going to be coming to us. Da-da-da-da. We're allowed to go out. Isn't it brilliant? Come back to work. Come back to work on your same pay, same conditions, same this. Not more than 5% of their total workforce came back.
Wow, 5%.
Yep.
It makes me happy to think about that.
It was for me. Yeah. I was sat in the background going, "Well, I told you."
What did you think?
Well, I have to say it was very hard not to do an "I told you so" kind of.
You didn't.
I didn't, and the reason I didn't was because I take no pride in seeing people have issues. That isn't
no, of course, but
it was their argument. Their argument was fundamentally flawed. It was, we can, and in a way, where I am in Cornwall in the UK, we've done this a lot in history, where we sort of go, people will come and work regardless. They need money. They need what it is. We're a low-paid economy, hospitality. We can, hospitality-based. We can effectively just open the doors at the start of the summer and everyone will flood in, and that's the way it is. And, it didn't work. And it hasn't been working since. Even if you go into the big cities like London and Manchester and Birmingham and, even if you go abroad into the big cities, Paris and Munich and places like this, are all struggling to get these staff back. And the reason they're struggling to get these staff back is because the staff have said no more. I'm going to do this.
So you started talking about the Great Resignation, but let's go back to the pandemic itself. These 2 years, people working remotely, some of them were fired, some of them got dismissed, and then they came back. So mental health during this crisis, how do you see the impact of that?
Mental health during the crisis is something that's been hidden by, in my opinion, by an awful lot of our policymakers and sort of things on those sorts of lines. We've been. It's kind of like the magician, the sleight of hand. If you're looking at this one, you're not looking at that one.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we've had all these big things that have come out. Massive. The COVID pandemic was terrible for so many businesses, shutting down, couldn't do X, Y, and Z. But in the background, we constantly had this rumbling mental health boulder that was just picking up more and more and more and more people. And ultimately, that boulder is going to stop at some point. And all these people are going to get flung off, and people are going to have to pick up where we are. And this is why I was saying previously that I think mental health is the next. It's always been a thing. It's always been a massively underestimated thing. But for me, these numbers that continue to come out, now that a lot of people tried to explain it away due to COVID. So they sort of said, oh yeah, productivity levels were down. Well, that's because we didn't, we weren't all in the office, and we weren't all working from home, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
There will come a point where people have to accept that actually these things are real and they're causing issues. Whether these are individuals who were abandoned by their company and then unfortunately have not been able to get work again and don't know what to do with their lives and have been put into a really difficult situation, or they're people who need that workplace company where we go in and we have that human interaction, and because of COVID and things like that, they've not been able to get it. So they became very isolated. And of course, along with isolation, you then go into the sort of, depression, anxiety scale, possibly. So these guys are going to be coming back together. You've got teams who have been apart for years and years and years, who are now suddenly thrown into a room together and told, yeah, just go back to the way everything was.
Yeah.
It is, for me, it's this big sort of, it's like we've come to the end of something medical, and now everyone's kind of going, right, guys, let's go back.
Yeah.
Everybody back. It was a bit of a storm, but it's blown through now. So we're all just going to go back in the office and everything's going to be great.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I think the concept of hybrid working and things along those sorts of lines has advanced during this period. And for some people, and I emphasize some people, it's a good option. And again, you also have to be part of an industry that can support it. There are lots of people out there just banging the working from home drum. In fact, I was talking to somebody recently, and I said, well, we've got lots of farmers where I live. Sorry, you're telling me they can do all that from a computer? No, they need to get out in the field and they need to do these sorts of things. Fishermen, builders, the construction industry, house builders, retail shops, all these aren't. There is a select percentage of us who are fortunate in the respect that we can do what we can do remotely.
Yeah, I think it's like a majority that most people manufacturing. We talked about hospitality, we talked about travel, all the things that in the real world, what people really need to build something tangible. They cannot do it from home. Someone who is working in a manufacturing facility, what would he do? In the end, it needs to be something. It needs to create something, right? So it doesn't make sense to see the world only from a virtual perspective. And I come from tech, so I know exactly what it means. And even if we could do it, should we? Would it be good for everyone?
That's my biggest concern. And this is the biggest sort of not anti working from home, but look, there are lots of different things that are good about working from home. There are lots of different things that are bad about working from home. For me, I always end